back into Book Review 101 with Faith, and Peter.
I am Faith.
And I'm Peter. The book for today is going to be Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman.
This was quite a book, I'll be honest with you. What did you guys think before and after reading the book?
Well, before the book, I looked up a summary, and to tell you, I was a little confused on how media affected our communication. But as I read the story, I understood his viewpoint more, and I was interested to learn more.
Before reading it, I thought I understood how media affects our culture and society today. But after reading this, I had no idea what I was looking at. And I think I learned a lot just to how much effect it truly has on our culture. And I can't wait to learn more about what he has to say.
I'll be honest, I thought this book was going to be completely different. Like, I thought it was going to be about politics and ideologies and all of that. But after reading this book, I'm definitely going to be looking more into Neil Postman's books. And I'm most likely going to end up rereading this specific book. Like, I love the amount of effort he put into it. And I just love the topics and ideas he sent out to basically all of his readers and he introduced to us.
Okay, so how about we go into the details of this book?
Yeah. Postman started the book by, introducing, or rather reintroducing to some of us Huxley and George Orwell's ideas. He talks about the differences in their opinions, and in this part of the book, he laid an outline for what the entire book was going to be about.
It did, which also helped introduce almost all the other topics and the ideas that was mentioned throughout the rest of the book.
Yes, I did enjoy the part where he compared Orwell's opinions of the world to Huxley's. Every time a new topic was reintroduced or introduced, I went back to that specific page and I noticed and found it interesting how every single time the topics always aligned with Huxley's opinions. What did you guys think about the tone and diction of the book? Did you guys think it changed over time?
I think he maintained a serious and informational tone throughout the entire time.
Yes, I agree, Peter. I believe he had the same tone throughout the entire book.
The part I shockingly liked was the part of show business, which I believe is in chapter 6. And he really was just describing how television has impacted culture so much, where they've stopped putting the importance from the message that they're getting across and putting all the focus on the way that they present it to the audience. So like if you're watching the news, having an attractive anchor reporting it to you and having other things in the background to keep your attention focused on it versus really just emphasizing the information they're trying to tell you.
I actually agree on your elaboration on show business. I've noticed these days that news anchors and all the entire news outlet would rather focus on the amount of money they're making, the amount of viewers, than the actual message they're sending, which is really not a good thing because they are limiting the people. They're limiting our knowledge, which will end up most likely causing conflicts like it already has.
Yes, I agree, because I feel like as people started to realize that show business was bringing in more money and more conversation, that they started to use this to manipulate the people. And as time went on, people did not realize what was happening. And so I agree with the both of you. So one of the parts of the book I found the most important was his opinions of typographic America. And going back to the book, I believe that was in chapter 4, where he used historical illusion.
Oh, I remember this part. I found it really interesting when he used the debate of Lincoln and Douglas, because I believe that he used his politics to elaborate on the idea of typographic America because of how important of a topic it is. And I mean, since forever, politics has been the reason for conflicts, wars, genocides, and even more beyond that. And using politics was the best way for him to keep his readers' attention from straying off topic.
Speaking of readers' attention from straying, how about a little brain break?
Yes.
Welcome back, guys. Before the break, we were talking about Faith's favorite part of the book, which was...
Typographic America.
I was actually a little confused in this part of the book and was too tired to do research on it. Could you please explain what typography is, or typography, however you say it?
Okay. So basically, typography or typography is the appearance of words on print paper. And Postman uses this to criticize the entire American press. And he found it interesting and I found a quote in the book where it says, Americans were as committed to the print word as any group of people who ever lived. He says that writers could manipulate the ideas they wrote on print by manipulating the events they write about. And to elaborate on that, I think this also applies in today's world, that the news today is more censored and watered down, and people's opinions are more based off of emotion, and they aren't thinking rationally, whereas print allowed people to be more level-headed, and it had more context. And I found a quote in the book where it says, what is happening here is that television is altering the meaning of being informed by creating a species of information that might properly be called disinformation. And people's opinions today are, as I said before, driven by emotion, then the contrasted to the complex opinions that people had in the 18th and 19th centuries because of print. And today's information, yes, is not really information. And as I said before, it's more watered down and it has no context.
Oh, that makes more sense. Well, thanks, Faith.
Well, you're welcome, babe.
I found the idea of camera appeal to be very interesting. Camera appeal is one topic I have always found to be very problematic and an issue in this world. But I just loved how he elaborated on it in the book.
Wasn't that in chapter 1?
It was, and I love how he used political allusion, in many parts of the book, just like he did when introducing camera appeal.
He actually ended up connecting camera appeal to like the press of America. Throughout the entire book, if you guys noticed, we see like numerous occasions where he ends up talking about the press of America, and he always connects the press of America to new topics. It's like his entire goal was just basically to diss the press.
This is similar to both the show business and typographic America idea.
Could you elaborate on the camera appeal idea?
Oh yeah, I definitely can do. Camera appeal, according to Postman, is basically like how we choose to only listen to some things on TV, depending on how amusing it looks. He uses the news as an example, the American press, for camera appeal. If you notice, newscasters, they pay more attention to their physical appearance and how dressed up they are in their makeup and all than what they're actually trying to say to the people. They focus more on physical appearance than their message to people.
So is he just talking about everyone, having a preference?
Well, something like that. In the book, in page 5, I remember he says, meanwhile, former President Richard Nixon, who once claimed he lost an election because he was sabotaged by makeup men, has offered Senator Edward Kennedy advice on how to make a serious run for the presidency. Lose 20 pounds. Although the Constitution makes no mention of it, it would appear that fat people are now effectively excluded from running for high political office. Probably bald people as well.
Another use of illusion.
Yup. As I was saying, Postman explains that people who don't have camera appeal are excluded from addressing the public about what is called the news of the day. This is why there is usually a specific look and voice needed for the position. Concerning the political illusion, I think he just shows us how our amusement truly leads to our death. The fact that this actually is true, on multiple occasions, people have chosen to pay attention to the physical features and not what they bring to the table as presidents or so.
This is true, and I feel like now that we've gotten to a point in our lives, especially today, where we are starting to get more involved in politics, and we have noticed this. Lots, especially me though, lots of people focus on JFK's looks rather than his presidency because I've seen videos of where people focus on his looks and how he used to look back in the day rather when also people focus more on Obama's birth certificate rather than his first term as president. And they also focused on how he was the first Black president to do this or the first Black president to do that. And I believe it was a historical moment. But that was all what people seemed to be focused on was his race and his downfalls.
Yeah. Yeah, because they preferred if he wasn't black. And physical appearance goes for more than just presidents and newscasters, but throughout all sorts of occupations exposed to media. And speaking of which, I found it interesting how he kept on using historical illusion to criticize the world today.
Yeah, the whole point of the book was to criticize the world. So I understand and I actually liked it. I feel like it also applies to add on today's society, how technology and people, but mostly technology, only lets us focus on certain aspects of people and not who they are as a person.
Okay, well, if you were given a chance to elaborate on the book or change anything about it, what would you guys do?
Personally, I would leave the book the way it is. I mean, it gives people the insight to how everything affects their culture, and it's a little complicated, but overall, it's good information and it's a good read.
Nice. Okay.
Well, if you had to take one of the topics of this book and explain it to someone who hasn't read it, explain how you would do it. Me personally, I would just get them an understanding Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman for Dummies book, if that exists. Lol.
And I honestly understand why you would do that. Lamau. This book was amazing and had amazing topics, but there was moments where it was a little complicated.
That was so true. I believe Postman intended this book to be like for a specific audience based on the fact that he literally had formal diction with so much use of sophisticated language.
Okay, can we talk about this phrase in the book? The medium is the metaphor. Would you care to explain on that?
Sure. Well, based on the reading and research, Postman used this metaphor simply to just replace Marshall McLuhan's phrase, the median is the message. Postman just uses this to talk about how he believes the media doesn't communicate the true message to us.
To add on to that, people know the truth based off how it's communicated to you. Like, with the different news stations, there are news stations that will deliberately censor and ignore important information. And I feel like this relates back to one of the lessons we learned um, from a speaker at a tech talk, and they were talking about the dangers of telling a single story and that how those are more harmful to us and that we should be more mindful and pay attention to what we say and what we hear. And I feel like this affects us today because as technology develops, people care less about the relevancy of the information and more about the baseless evidence that has to do with the topic.
So true. Yeah, speaking of which, just like you said, Faith, that's actually like, wow, lost my train of thought there for a second, but I agree with what you both said. Like you said before, in the I'm so sorry, I keep losing my train of thought for some reason. But yeah, what I was gonna say is that Crap, guys. Yeah, okay, wait, now I remember what I was gonna say. Yeah, so basically, if you notice, a lots of people, like, they have no choice, like I believe I said before, they have no choice but to go on social media to go look for the true message, because for some reason, um, news outlets believe it's better to just censor all of the messages they give us. It's like they're trying to protect us or so, but they're literally stripping the people. They're taking away our rights and they're leaving us with less knowledge every day. So we have no choice but to go on social media looking for basically answers, which ends up causing conflicts, confusion, and so much more. But yeah, it's almost time for us to do the rating. So let's actually go back to my previous question. What would you guys actually do to like elaborate or change in the book? Also, please elaborate.
No.
Oh my gosh, no. Okay, Faye. But left to me, if I was to elaborate or change the book, first things first, I would actually let's see, what would I do? I would actually start the book off instead of just starting like usual. I would put a warning for the readers who are gonna, if you're gonna start reading the book, know a thing or two about Huxley or George Orwell. And also, I would cut the sophisticated language off. Like, I got so tired, and like, I feel like some other readers would have had this problem, but they had to reread a page or so just to understand it. So, yeah, I'd cut the sophisticated language.
All right, well, my favorite time, it's time for the critiquing portion of today's episode. And to all of our listeners, I just want to let you know that our ratings should never stop you from reading a book. Just because we rate it a certain way doesn't mean it's a terrible book. This is just based on our preference. And for me, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 because of how complicated it was, but still good information. So I'm going to leave it with a 7 out of 10.
Well, I will give it a slightly higher rating. I'll give it a 7.5. I really do feel like it was a good book, but all the words, I just feel like he was throwing a lot of words at us, and it was all very jumbled. And I feel that I've lost track many times because on it, sometimes I felt like dropping the book right then and there because it was just really, really confusing. So yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to agree and also disagree with you guys because let's see, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. And for critiquing, I literally agree with you guys. What was up with the sophisticated language? It was so annoying, and I was tired of having to reread one single page up to like 5 different times to understand what he was saying. So I would definitely like if next time he writes a book like that, if he's even alive, no hate.
He's on live.
But, okay, thank you for that. But I would ask him and beg him to cut the sophisticated language off because that was annoying. But I really loved the topics and ideas he put in this book. This book has like helped me in a way. Like it has a great impact on my life, and I would definitely, like I said earlier, be looking into more of Neil Postman's books. And I would also like to hopefully remember every single topic I actually learned in this and use it in my life now. So yeah.
This has been a great discussion. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast.
Yes, we are really grateful for this. I am so happy because we spent so much time reading and doing research on this book just for you guys.
All right. I hope you had a great time listening to us, and thank you, and have a good night.
Like and subscribe.